Hey everyone, welcome back to more Path of Exile, and in today's content we are gonna do a quick roundup about the Echoes of the Atlas expansion announcement and also a little bit of the Ritual League descriptions and announcements. And before we begin tonight's video, if you want the summarized version of what happened during the stream and the web page itself, I think that everything in this place and the stream itself is pretty solid. I think the next expansion and league themselves are going to be rather fun experiences added into Path of Exile, especially seeing as it's been a little while since the last content drop we saw added into Path of Exile, and at the same time they seem like nice additions to the endgame experience. So I mean, I think they are pretty solid on their own, so we still have to see them in game, but so far, pretty good. Besides that, if you are new around here, be sure to subscribe to the channel, otherwise a rating and a comment are always appreciated. And we are gonna begin this video by watching the trailer of the new expansion and league, so let's get to that now.
What drives you, Exile? Is it justice? Revenge? Honor? No. It is power. We felt your deeds. Felt their shockwaves ripple through the void. You have our attention. Now you must keep it. Your limits will be tested. Break them. Do what is thought impossible, and the Atlas will follow. Themselves will bear silent witness. How far will you bend before you break?
Alright, so before we begin with the rest of the breakdown of the content that they showcased, I just want to mention the fact that some of these shots in the trailer itself where the character is playing against the different bosses looks amazing. For example, this one with Sirius looks great, the one with the Breaking and Hillock, it looks amazing, and hopefully one day GGG gives us the ability to take screenshots like this in game so that we can make wallpapers or thumbnails with this kind of detail, because they look amazing. But anyways, moving on to the rest of the content, we've got Echoes of the Atlas as the expansion itself, which brings a couple of new activities, including a new endgame boss, the Maven. Now, in order to fight the Maven, first we need to encounter her throughout our adventures on the Atlas, where she'll start recruiting bosses, to call it that, so that we eventually are able to fight multiple of these bosses at the same time. First we'll begin with 4 bosses, then 5, then 6, and finally 10 at the same time. And when we defeat all of them at the same time, we will be able to fight the Maven herself. Now, this looks like mayhem, you know, represented in activity, and while it seems a little bit scary, it also seems like a lot of fun, because the mess that it's gonna create should be an interesting experience to, you know, live in this game's lifespan. And hopefully the new boss, it's not a terrible one, because they do say that it's harder than Sirius, or rather one of the hardest bosses ever added into the game. So that's gonna be, again, an interesting experience to figure out, to defeat and make content about. So far looking good, looking pretty interesting. But moving on to the rest of the stuff, we've got Atlas passive trees, which is a new mechanic added into the game where the regions in the Atlas are going to get skill trees, or rather passive trees, where we can spec into different bonuses that apply to the different league mechanics that we've come to know and love. And at the same time, this is great because it allows people who like farming specific types of content to keep replaying with the mapping system and continuously engage with the stuff they like. For example, if you like crafting, there is Harvest, which is coming back. If you like delving or deep delving, you've got stuff that goes alongside Nico's missions and Scarabs. You've got Breach, you've got Beyond, you've got Legion, etc, etc, which should be a nice addition to those of us who like farming specific stuff. Moving on, we've got new endgame rewards in the form of new watchstones that can be crafted by us, the players, and traded away. We've got a new type of currency in the form of the Maven's Orb and the mechanic that applies to influenced items. Anyways, these watchstones were left a little bit ambiguous during the stream because they didn't tell us where to get them, but the goal is to replace every other watchstone on your Atlas with them so that you can make the experience a little bit more difficult but also a bit more rewarding. And they are super endgame stuff because they didn't say you were gonna get them day one. I think they're gonna be something that will be rather expensive to get and also a little bit difficult to acquire. Anyways, the Maven's Orb, the entire goal of this orb is to modify an item with multiple influenced modifiers by removing a random one and giving a random one additional properties, which should prove a little bit difficult to control, but also, you know, at the end of the day, pretty good for min-maxing your stuff even further. Moving on to the rest of this stuff, we've got 11 new maps that use tile sets from Path of Exile 2, and they look absolutely gorgeous because at the end of the day our current Atlas is getting a little bit stale, and these new tile sets and environments bring a little bit of diversity into an already, you know, aging experience. Now, what they didn't explain during the stream was if these maps are additional to the already large number of maps or if they were replacing existing maps. So either way, it's a nice addition because at the end of the day, variety is the spice of life and some maps could use, you know, a little bit more love. After all, they are getting a little bit old by now. Now for the Ritual League itself, which is the other content alongside the expansion, this league seems a bit simplistic because the goal is finding these spires on the different areas we visit, clearing the activity because the activity itself is a wave-based type of deal where you kill monsters until the spire itself is satisfied and it allows you to interact with it, and then you can spend the tribute that you've gathered by killing every single monster during the event in order to acquire a reward that you desire. And you can also reroll the rewards that a spire is offering once per area or map, and you can also defer an item for future purchase by saving it and entering another area and hopefully gathering enough tribute to acquire the item. At the same time, multiple spires are present on the maps and areas that we visit, and this allows for consecutive clears of the activity to become harder but also a bit more rewarding. They've also got new item bases which look a little bit wacky in my opinion, but then again, we'll see how good they are in game next week. We've also got this type of currency that they are adding, which is called a Ritual Vessel, which is kinda the thing that Bestiary does where you're allowed to capture a monster, and in the case of this new type of currency, use it during an Atlas activation in order to add the monsters of a previous map into a new ritual activity, so that you make the activity harder but also more rewarding, especially seeing as you can get things like a headhunter, multiple exiles, maybe good rolled rare items, you know, synthesis bases, which at the end of the day is stuff that you will probably wanna get in order to min-max or make your character stronger, or, you know, make yourself wealthy in order to finance other stuff. Also, there's this picture of both harvest bosses, the bear and this blue guy over here. I don't recall which one it was, but I know he was a pain in the ass to fight alongside the Hydra in the Spire event, which should prove to be a little bit of a pain in the ass, but at the end of the day, maybe that's how you make the big bucks or gains or whatever. But anyways, moving on, we've also got a balance patch for all ascendancies, especially things like the Deadeye, Inquisitor and Elementalist. And they focused on the Deadeye during the stream because they reworked that ascendancy completely, adding new stuff, making other stuff more enticing, and at the end of the day, it should be a nice experience because I guess they want us to try out different ascendancies and not always play the exact same thing. Because, as I said earlier, variety is the spice of life, and in a game like Path of Exile, there is plenty of variety that does not get enough attention because other stuff tends to be stronger. But with these balance changes, things should be a little bit more, you know, different, and creativity should, like, I don't know, reign supreme. Anyways, moving on, we also have new unique items, new divination cards, new gems, which is something that we've come to expect with every single patch. And, you know, at the end of the day, unique items, they don't really look super amazing until we get them in practice. New divination cards, I guess there are more than these two, and for the gems, there are also other gems, I think. Anyways, we've also got Harvest, which is coming back, and it is coming back in a completely different way to what it used to be. It is no longer an activity that the player has in the background, slowly gathering seeds and investing into making the garden a completely custom experience. It is now something that is predefined every time you enter a map. If you find a harvest portal, you will find a harvest garden with a patch of seeds that you cannot modify, but that you can harvest in order to acquire your crafts. You will be able to store up to 10 crafts in a horticrafting station, either on your hideout or on the garden itself, and that way you're able to use your crafts for later use or in the moment where you open them inside a map, which seems to be an attempt to balance harvest. We'll have to see that in practice, but so far I kind of agree with the implementation of the league mechanic, because at the end of the day it was a bit busted, but at least it's coming back. And finally we've got Heist, which is coming back, or rather it is getting implemented into the core game, which isn't a terrible thing because Heist wasn't super bad, but at the end of the day I guess everybody who loved opening doors is gonna have a field day having to play through Heist again. From my part, I don't see myself engaging as much with Heist, but it's nice to see that it's still a thing in the game. And finally, to wrap up, the supporter packs, which this guy over here, the white one, looks like a sentinel from Doom Eternal, which is absolutely badass. The other guy doesn't look too bad, but this guy over here, that's a solid MTX set. But anyways, that's it for the overview of the league mechanic and expansion, and generally speaking I think this looks great. It looks solid, it looks like a nice addition to the overall game, and I cannot wait to give it a shot once it comes into the game next week. I know that not everybody was expecting these kinds of things. Some people were probably expecting Sirius and his Conquerors to, you know, bugger off, but that is not the case, at least until Path of Exile 2, as they said on the stream. And I don't know. Generally speaking, I think all of this looks great. I cannot wait to try it out. I know that some people are not so happy, but I don't really care. I think this looks like a solid experience that is gonna get added into Path of Exile. And with all of that said, I want to hear you guys and gals comments down there in the comments below. Well, not hear you, but read you. And if you are new around here and you got to the end of tonight's video, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, a rating and a comment are always appreciated. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, take care, have a nice weekend, and peace out.